So, Mr. Kamau, can you hear me yourself?
I'm actually able to hear you. I just wanted them to confirm that they can hear you well.
Okay.
No problem. So we should be able to start just now. Give me a second. I need guys. Once you join, kindly try and mute.
Mr. Kamau, can you hear me yourself?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me? I just wanted them to confirm that they can hear you well.
Okay.
No problem. So we should be able to start just now. Yeah, second, I need guys, once you join, kindly try and mute. Yeah, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
I don't know, Mr. Kamau, why the background noise? There was sort of a bit
I don't
of
think we've been able to resolve that. We've been able to resolve that.
Okay.
I think everything is okay now. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making time to join this particular session. Today, we are privileged to have Mr. Francis Ndungu, a quality expert. Mr. Francis Ndungu is a quality assurance manager based at the Nairobi Hospital. He's actually taken his time to support us with this particular presentation. We want to confirm now that we do not have any conflict of interest. Neither has Mr. Ndungu been paid to actually present. He's doing it pro bono. It is giving back to the community. He feels that he's in a good position to give back to us. So today we will be taken through standardizing your quality management system for posterity. He will walk us down why is it important for data in quality management system. He'll also take us through how to execute a root cause analysis and what is actually key in ensuring continuous quality improvement. So Mr. Ndungu, the floor is yours. Please walk us through.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. You are loud and clear. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kamau Gatweshi. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to actually come on and give share my experience or my knowledge, specifically on quality management system. And I'll be talking about the importance of data in quality management system, and also why root cause analysis is key in continuous quality improvement. So Karibu, I think at this point, to reduce the lag, I'm going to put off the video. Hopefully, then we'll be able to, maybe at the end of the presentation, then I'll be able to put it on again when answering the questions. So Karibu sana, everyone. So I will start off by giving an overview generally of quality in the lab. And what we know is that lab is at the center, plays a key role in healthcare delivery. And as you know, 70% of clinical decisions are actually informed by, in the healthcare, are informed by data from laboratory medicine. So if there are patients in the hospital, 70% of the decisions that will be made by the clinicians or the doctors or the healthcare provider, they'll be based on results or data from the lab. And maybe you may or you may not know this, approximate expenditure for a patient who walks into the hospital, what amount of money they spend on lab is approximately 5%. So you can see we do quite a lot of work, and maybe it's not like most of the resources are actually spent in the lab. So, but nonetheless, we play a very critical role in healthcare service delivery. So at this center, So what we are saying here is that in the lab, when a patient walks into the hospital or into a clinic, or they go to see a doctor, for the doctor to diagnose a disease, most of the time, he will send the patient to the lab. Now, if a doctor needs to determine the appropriate medication or treatment, again, they will need to do some lab test. An example would be for, say you have a urinary tract infection, you need to do a culture, and then to, of course, identify the organism. And then thereafter, you do a sensitivity to determine the drugs that would work, that would clear that infection. Of course, the other thing would be, do you want to also evaluate response? How is the patient responding to treatment? Now, there are other markers that we do in the lab, for example, troponin, and for example, troponin that would tell whether maybe a patient who has had a myocardial infarction is actually getting better. So the doctor would do that to actually evaluate the response of the treatment they are giving. And of course, sometimes we even do tests to identify the risk factors, whether a patient is predisposed to some illnesses. Yeah. So we can see that our role is quite critical in healthcare. And of course, we have all this responsibility. With all this influence in decision making comes a lot of responsibility. So we have a big responsibility on our shoulder when it comes to healthcare service delivery. Now, I would want to go through some definitions. And the first one is quality. I think we all know quality, as per the ISO 15189 standard, is the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfill requirements. So inherent characteristics are the inbuilt characteristics, things that you cannot change. And it can be said either to be, you measure it. So it can be very good, or it can be poor. Yeah. So it can be excellent. So that is what the degree is. So for example, a good example would be maybe for service delivery, you would require to look at turnaround time. And then turnaround time, you would say, is it short or is it long? So those are some of the inherent characteristics. When you walk into a hospital, when you walk into a service point, there are those things that everybody would look at and say, they are actually meeting the requirements, or they fulfill the requirements. Another definition of quality is that meeting from a customer perspective is meeting or exceeding customer expectations. So from a customer, if they walk into your lab, remember they'll be evaluating you. So they already have some idea in their minds, but then they'll be looking at you and saying, did they meet my expectation? Did they exceed my expectation? And another example, when anybody comes to the lab, the expectation is that they are going to get accurate results. So then once they get accurate results, then they would get well, because that is the essence of doing lab tests. So once they are given treatment, they would want to evaluate whether they are getting well. So that is already something in their mind. So if they come in and you give them a wrong diagnosis, then they would not say you gave them quality. Number two, if they came and they waited for too long, again, they wouldn't say they got quality. So, and then we are saying about standardizing. So what is a standard? Because we are saying we want to standardize our QMS. Standard is the level of quality achievement, e.g. that is widely considered acceptable or desirable. So you are meeting a standard that is considered acceptable or desirable. Everybody would want to be at that level. So that is what a standard is, and that is what we strive to do in our labs, to be able to, of course, maintain the standards. And of course, like I said, for a patient, what matters is the clinical outcome, whether they get well. Other definition of quality, of course, is that it's a journey, it's not a destination. We can never get to the end. So it's continuously changing. Yeah. The goalpost keeps on shifting. So you have to move. It is a moving target. You can never say now we've achieved quality. Now we will not do anything else. We just sit back and enjoy. So that is not quality. it's continuously evolving. You have to keep on pursuing to improve your services. Of course, it's also a commitment, your commitment to continuous positive change. Key, and probably what you will need to take home with from this presentation is that you cannot say you are improving quality without measuring it. So quality must be measured if you want to say or claim you have a continuous quality improvement program, or in any QMS. So always you have to measure, and that's why we are even talking about data today. So of course, quality requires teamwork, and as illustrated in this cartoon here, all those guys are rowing the boat. Everybody is working very hard. I would pose this question to you. Do you think they will go anywhere? Probably not, because some are rowing backwards, others are crisscrossing others. And maybe you can see ahead of them is a boat that is probably just being driven by wind only, and it is way ahead of them. So quality requires that we work as a team. And the teamwork here would be, if you are in a hospital setup, requires that you work with everybody, the nursing staff, the clinicians, the finance department, everyone. You have to work together. So for you to be able to achieve quality, remember, you have to work as a team. Quality requires that you work smarter. Now, this, again, illustration here, you can be working very hard, but you are not achieving your goals. And I would say one of the things that, one of the continuous quality improvement techniques that are used would be Kaizen, which is continuous change for good. Kaizen, that's what it means, Japanese word. One of the things that you have to always seek in your QMS is to remove wastage. And there are many ways, there are many forms of wastages in your workplace. Number one is doing a lot of work, or what you would say non-value adding steps. For example, a patient who walks into the lab and you ask them to sit and wait. So if they are sitting and waiting, is it adding any value to them? I encountered, I've encountered patients before who say, I didn't come here to sit, because every place I go, I'm told to sit down and wait, So that really is a big wastage. So you have to look at your processes and determine ways in which you can be able to reduce the waiting times. For example, you have to repeat a test again. It's another wastage. You have to keep on repeating the test, maybe because you are not using the right method, or you have a problem with your equipment. So you keep on doing that and, repeating tests. Again, a waste. Wasting staff potential also is another waste. So you have to look at all those things so that you can be able to eliminate this wastage. And by that, you will standardize your QMS. Another thing that is critical is in quality is customer satisfaction. If you work in the lab, what you have to remember, that most of the time we just look at from the lab perspective, you look at your quality control, you look at your EQA, equipment maintenance and all that, and you say, we are a perfect lab. But now, what do the customers say? What do the customers who walk in say? Do they have the same, would they give you the same rating as you would give yourself? And for lab, we have two types of, we have the patient as one of our customers, but we also have the clinician who is also our customer. So are they satisfied with our services? So that is what is critical for your lab if you are going to maintain standards. There shouldn't be any variations in your service delivery. And I will tell you about a patient who, during the height of COVID, there is a patient who came and said that, complained to us that, as you know, for you to travel, you're required to do a COVID test. So this particular patient came and said, why are patients and travelers being, they are put in the same waiting area? Don't you think the patients would are going to infect the travelers. But then what we told them is that, basically there is really nothing much you can do, because even among the patient, you don't know whether they have COVID. They are waiting for testing. So you cannot outright claim that them they have COVID and you don't. So they are going to infect you. But now, this particular client, after that conversation, he went on Twitter and tweeted and said that, in this facility, we are mixing travelers and patients who are waiting to be tested for COVID. And you can imagine this particular patient had around 500,000 followers on Twitter. And everybody was up saying, sharing about their experiences on COVID testing. But bottom line, at the end of the day, what came out is that even other people are telling you that is how it is done in all the institutions, and really taking care of yourself, protecting yourself is your own responsibility, really. So why I'm sharing that is that they say when you do something good, the client will go and tell 3 people. But if you do something bad, the client will go and tell 11 people. But now here is a client who goes and tells 500,000 people. So you can imagine if your customers are not satisfied, the kind of hit you'll get on your reputation. Quality, I've said this, is of course a journey. You cannot say we've achieved, so you rest. And Deming said that quality at the end of the day is human commitment. So you have to be committed to continuous improvement. So now, sharing about data and why data is very important in QMS. Labs are data factories. What we generate is data. We generate a lot of data, so we would say we manufacture data. And so from the data, you need to analyze the data and then understand what all this data is telling you. And using this data, then you can be able to standardize your QMS. So not only does the analytics, of course, analyzing data, shine a brighter light on available data, but it reveals new information that leads to better insight and decision making. Remember, all your decisions should be based on data. Don't make decisions based on feelings or based on what you are told. Always, you have to make decisions based on the data you get. Now, of course, the labs that have that use data actually, they are able to. The labs with access to accurate, timely, and comprehensive data, they have the ability to perform advanced analytics for continuous improvement. So data is key in continuous improvement. And of course, it plays a critical role or crucial role in empowering labs to assess performance. So through data, we are able to assess our performance. We identify inefficiencies and determine the root cause of problems. Yeah, it enables the lab to quickly and easily benchmark performance and drive continuous improvement, of course, with the ability to monitor common KPIs. So what are the benefits of using data? Number one, if you use data and you base your decisions on data, you increase efficiency and effectiveness of lab operations and patients' care. You, of course, optimize costs. Remember, we are required to reduce costs. I think this is one of the things that we are required to do, or at least manage costs. So if you use data, then you can use this data to be able to, of course, optimize your cost or even reduce your costs. Improve turnaround times. Another key thing that you will use data to be able to improve your turnaround time and also increase workflow efficiency, more efficient use of staff time. Remember, you have staff, but do you know how they are working? Are they being used efficiently? Or do you have too many staff? Or are they actually matched with the tasks that they undertake on a daily basis? What you can actually use data to actually ensure that you use your staff time efficiently. Of course, you get better collaboration with the healthcare partners outside the lab. And here we are talking about other departments in the lab, if you are hospital-based lab, or even other, the clinicians, yeah, and even the payers, or would say maybe the insurance companies and the others. Okay. One quote there I would want to give, even as we continue. They say that blessed is a person who is too busy to worry in the daytime and too sleepy to worry at night. So you work very hard during the day, so that when you go home, you don't worry, you just sleep. But of course, if you are a family person, you may need to consider being too sleepy at home also. Okay, so now an assessment was done in labs in the US, and labs were asked how they were using data to support lab operations and management. And maybe I would want you also to evaluate your own lab and say, how far are you using data, yeah, in lab management or even in improving lab operations or processes? So the first question here is that we are utilizing data analytics in some aspects and we are planning more. So this question, how they were using data, so only 53% said that they were utilizing data analytics in some aspects. And of course, they were planning to do more on data. Then, yet the next one was we are using data analytics for all aspects of lab management, only 11%. So there are so many other aspects that are there in the lab, but only 11% of the labs were using data. So it means the others, they were using, I wouldn't know maybe what they would use, but maybe feelings or feedback from people, not necessarily looking at the data they have. So the next one is that we are using data analytics for some aspects and we are planning more. So is your lab doing that? Are you using any analytics? Are you analyzing data for some aspects? And are you planning to do more? 13% was the feedback, were those who said yes. And then we are not using data analytics in any significant way, but we plan to start. So evaluate your lab and see where are you? Are you in this category? They are not using data at all, but they would want to start. Or you are in the last category where we are not using data analytics for lab management and we have no plans to start. There are also still those who say that. These are labs, this survey was done in the US and was given by, of course, feedback from the lab. So maybe we can do our own feedback and see how many of us are using any form of data to advise on decision making in terms of the lab management and also the processes in the lab. So there are several types of data analytics. We have the descriptive analytics, where you analyze past facts to answer a question about what has happened. And then we have predictive analytics, where you analyze past or current facts to make predictions about the future. Or prescriptive analytics, where you suggest action based on past performance, current performance, or other factors. So again, which one of these are you doing? Yeah, you of course need to evaluate yourself and see which of are we using descriptive analytics, predictive, or prescriptive analytics. And now from this data, you come up with two things. So leading and lagging indicators. So lagging indicators, good example is you are using yesterday's data today. So for example, the classic example is last month TAT. So if you are evaluating, for example, the data you want to improve TAT, and you are using data from last month, so is that going to help you much, or you need to maybe devise ways of evaluating your performance better? Now there is also the leading indicators. So this gives early indication of performance, and these indicators lead to results by showing the progress you are making toward your goal. So these are like real-time indicators. Yeah. So, and leading indicators are things that we use to tell us what is coming at the lab or what is likely to go wrong based on early information. E.g., the analyzer went down today, which caused turnaround time to increase. In this case, the leading indicator is the fact that the analyzer went down and you are monitoring that. And the lab management knows about this information as it is happening. So we need to, of course, both of the indicators have their role, and maybe I'll be able to share our experience, and you'll be able to see. So one of the indicators I've spoken about is the leading indicator. And I would want to give you an example here of a leading indicator that we have. So we use a queue system, and the queue system, you're able to get real-time system overviews. So like this particular one, just a screenshot, it can tell you the tokens here is the number of patients who have come in. And then the tokens waiting are those who are waiting, those who are in process, and then those tokens skipped, and then token completed. So now here, from this screen, you can just be able to tell whether you are being overwhelmed at your reception or at your front office, because you are able to see real time what is happening there. So, and you can also check even from this, you can be able to tell where we have bottlenecks, and you can be able to solve them there and then. So if you are looking at, for example, you look at maybe say your cashiers, yeah, you have maybe cashier 1, cashier 2, you can quickly tell that cashier 1 is, has completed 23 transaction only, maybe cashier 2, 34. So you may need to use this and evaluate and say maybe, and then looking at again at the average transaction time for each, it tells you cashier 2 is taking longer, maybe 6 minutes, cashier 1 is taking only 4 minutes. So you can be able to allocate your resources adequately. Maybe say we maybe need to bring in another cashier, yeah, or maybe this cashier is not performing as well. So from this, you can be able to tell immediately so that you can even take action the next day, there and then, or even the next day. And that is what we are talking about, leading indicators. It also tells you, like, you have room 1 and room 2, maybe this phlebotomy, maybe the person at room 2 is not performing as well. As you can see, they've only done, maybe they have done, no, the one in room 2 is not the one who is not performing as well, because they've seen 23 patients and they are taking longer with each at 7 minutes. And then this other one is at room 2 is taking only, it's taking 6 minutes, and they've seen more clients. So again, this is just an example of the indicators that you can be able to use. Now, this again is another of the leading indicator, and this tells you what you have again from the queue system, and this is a hourly report. So you can tell from this report that each hour, how many clients are coming in, how many are being served, and how long each is taking. So from here, you can see, like, this is the time, the date, of course, and then the time. The time here is, say, 9 to 10. So between 9 to 10, we have like 11 clients. Yeah, 9 of them are completed, and the average time is 12, between 9 and 10. Then you come 10 and 11, we have 18, so we have more. And the average transaction time or waiting time is 7 minutes. So this is real time, and you are able to see that this is the timings when you have many clients. So you can see, for example, here at between 12 and 1, 12 and 13, that is 12 and 1, you have more clients, you have 18 clients, and the average waiting time is 20. So you'd ask yourself, if you have the same number of staff, maybe between 10 and 11, and the same number again at 12 and 1, why is it taking longer to serve these patients at this time? And this would mean probably the staff there, maybe they take lunch breaks, they go for lunch breaks, and they leave only one person working. So what do you do? Based on this, you adjust your rota or schedule. You say between maybe 10 and 1, I'll have more, more staff on duty, so that then they can be able to attend to clients. And then you can, of course, reduce the waiting time. So this is information that you are using real time, and this can be able to inform you. You make decision based on this information that you are able to see real time. And this really informs you even on how to schedule orders. For example, you can say, a staff would, maybe in the morning between 7 and 10, we have very few clients. So maybe you can have one staff coming in, then maybe 2 more will join in between after 10, because that is when most of your clients come in. And this really helps you make decision there and then, and also make improvements. So lagging would be now looking at previous information. So an example here of, again, a screenshot taken out of the system would be, so if you look at the dates here, you would say that maybe on in the weekends, the dates, if it's on the weekend, there are fewer clients. So what should we do? Should we have the same number of staff on duty? You know, but now this is something that has already happened. And like what I was showing initially, where you are looking at real-time happenings and making decisions based on that. Now, one of the other things that you need to do, for example, you can say, I know many labs where they say their objective is to improve turnaround time. And you need to be able to say, using that data, using the data you have, you need to come up with ways of actually achieving this goal, because you cannot say you intend to improve turnaround time, yet you only wait until the end of the month to start checking how you are doing. So this is one of the tools that we have. Out of the system, you can be able to get this data. But further to that, what we've done is that we have been able to come up with a visual tool, this graph here, that on a daily basis, the staff in this particular section, like this is hematology section, they chart the turnaround time. And for example, here, the target here is to achieve, to be able to do TBC within 10 minutes from the time you receive the sample. Remember, turnaround time, you calculate it from the time the patient pays or walks into the lab to the time the results come out. But you cannot, in between, there are so many steps. There is a payment for the cashier, which I shared earlier. There is a phlebotomy services, and then there is the analysis time also. So for you to say you intend to improve the whole process, you cannot use one marker. So you have to come up with markers for each step. Cashiering, you've seen what I have just demonstrated above there about the timings of service. Number 2, the phlebotomy time, how long are they taking to do phlebotomy work? And then the analysis time, how long is this taking? So that then, based on these 3, if you improve all these 3, overall, the turnaround time would improve. So for this particular example I have here, so each day, staff would be able to chart the turnaround time, and visually, this is posted in a notice board, and everybody is able to see. You walk in and you see how this particular section is performing. And how this drives even change and standardization is that everyone is able to do this. It's not the supervisor who does this, it's the staff who are on duty that day. During their handover in the morning, they have to have calculated the TAT for that day, and then they, of course, chart it on this particular chart. And again, also this has helped in which way, when during handover, maybe the morning, the day shift, in the evening, they will do their TAT and tell the incoming night staff, we left our TAT at 85%. Please, when we come back in the morning, let it be there or even better. So that bit of monitoring on a continuous basis helps drive turnaround, improving turnaround time and standardization, because then it becomes a habit. So the next one, again, this is yet another example, but same for urinalysis, that the target would be different. Here we want to achieve the same turnaround of time of 30 minutes. But now here the target is higher. It's at you need to do this in 90%. And when you are above the target, then you mark in green. When you go below the target, you mark in red, because that means you are not able to achieve. And this again visually can be able to tell anybody who walks in that we are not doing very well, or what needs to be changed, or the actions that need to be taken to improve. So the same tools we would use also for IQC and EQA. Visually, on a daily basis, this is marked, and when it is within, when it is in order, then you say it's okay. Then if not, then you would mark, of course, in red. And from here, you'd have to, of course, take corrective action and document that. And we have a system called QPulse where we document all our incidences or EQA or IQC failure. But this tool is just to be able to allow people to visually see what the performance of that section by just, at a glance. So same also, we monitor critical value reporting. And maybe for critical value reporting, one of the things that again would improve and even standardize is again, report from the system, from lab information system. Staff will generate that. And then if there is any that was missed or was not reported within the required time of 15 minutes since authorization, then they would be able to mark here red and also give an explanation of what happened. But in addition to this, we generate a report, a monthly report on individual performance. So that also drives, standardizes and also drives continuous improvement. So same again, stock out and all that. Data we are talking about. Further, we now have the system I said called QPulse, where we record all our incidences. So incidences happening in the lab are recorded here, whether it's involving the patient, involving an equipment or IQC errors. So from here, you can be able to generate data and see the performance of, your performance. And from here, you can see, I don't know if you can be able to see clearly, but we have categories. So these are incident analysis. Sorry. So incident analysis here. And this system is able to categorize for you. So you have like, for example, these are incidences in the lab over time. So you have like incident involving equipment, involving patient, involving reagents. And you can further go down. You can further check on maybe incidences involving patients. What were they about? So you, by clicking, one of these categories, it would give you further information. And that is what I would say here. The next slide here, where you see we have some of the issues with patients would be wrongly labeled samples. You have like 11 there. Delay in collection. We have delay specimen delivery, specimen in wrong container or tube, specimen not received in the lab, wrong patient drawn, inadequate specimen, and it gives you further information. Now, why is this important and why do you need to continuously track this? Because then from this, you can make a decision that we have a challenge, maybe with the nursing team that is collecting the sample or the phlebotomy team that is collecting the sample. So what do? We have to take corrective action. We are getting very many samples that are wrongly labeled. Why are they labeling the samples? Why do we have them, so many of them? And from this data now, you can present this to the other departments, for example. Most of the time when you have an issue, people will tell you, how sure are you that is true? But if you produce data like this, nobody will question, and this can be, of course, help you drive improvement and also standardize your processes. So again, data, I said we are a factory of data. So you can use all this data in many ways. Like this, for example, is data that we did comparison of the glucose meter HemoQ that is used in the wards with the central lab. So what does this tell you, and how can you use this data even to advise the clinicians? for example, if you have, from this graph, what you can see here, if you have very high values of glucose, hyperglycemia, then your meter, the HemoQ would be giving lower values when compared to the central analyzer. Now, moving on to the next item of root cause. And so you use data, of course, to determine root cause. There you cannot, there is no way you will be able to do root cause without using data. Just like I've shared above there, using that data, then you can tell where the issues are. So I will go briefly through root cause. And as you can see in this illustration, we have the tree there and we have the roots underneath. So what we see on the surface is the tree itself, the branches, yeah, and the leaves and all that. So if you are to cut one branch here, the tree would probably not die. So you have to go down, dig deeper to be able to get to the root cause. And that is what root cause is all about. So some definitions there, of course, usually when would you do root cause is when you have non-conformance. And of course, this is when you are not fulfilling requirements. And then, of course, root cause, you would say, is the fact that creates the direct cause. If changed or removed, would prevent the unwanted outcome. Then we have correction, is the immediate action you take to eliminate the nonconformity. Then corrective action, the action you take to prevent of course, the nonconformity from from recurring. Then effectiveness, you look at the extent to which planned activity are realized and planned results achieved. Then preventive action, of course, the action you take to eliminate potential. This you have to be, there is always a confusion between corrective action and preventive action. These are completely two different things. Preventive action hardly is something that you do before, you anticipate that something may go wrong, then you take action. That is what preventive action is. But once something has happened, there has been an error, then that would be referred to as corrective action. So root cause here, you can see there again. So usually symptoms of the problem is what would be on the surface, okay? And that is the weed, but the underlying problem would be below the surface, and that is always not obvious. So the primary goal of using RCA is to analyze problems or event to identify what happened, how it happened, and why it happened, so that you can take action to prevent recurrence. Yeah. So areas where you need to do root cause, yeah, to provide, include, when you have major accidents, everyday incidences, minor near misses, human errors, maintenance problem, medical mistakes, productivity issue, manufacturing mistakes, environmental issues, and then, of course, risk analysis and risk mapping. All those you need to undertake some root cause if you are to address them. So the benefits of doing root cause analysis is that it identifies barriers and the causes of the problem so that permanent solutions can be found. And then you develop a logical approach to problem solving using data that already exists. So again, remember we said we are using data. Then identify current and future needs for organization improvement. And then, of course, establish repeatability, that is step-by-step processes in which one process can confirm the results of another. So principles of root cause analysis, you have to focus on corrective measures. Yeah, you don't just look at, solving that problem there and then. So, for example, a patient complained his results were delayed. Then what do? You just give the patient the results. Okay, you do the immediate action. You give out the results to the patient. You apologize to them, and you say you've closed that issue. Why did they delay in the first place? What will prevent another person from? What would prevent the next day of the delay? So those are things that you really have to look at when you are looking at the root cause. And remember, sometimes it is there is usually more than just one root cause, as you've seen from the illustration. It may be multiple. There could be several other issues. Remember, I said above a quote I gave out there that you just need to work so hard not to worry. But again, quote here is that where if you have to be successful, all you have to do is work half a day. Yeah, you don't have to work the whole day. So you can either work the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours, and you will be successful. So we know about lab errors, where they occur, and most of them, remember, this has not changed. Even from our own experience, the pre-analytical phase still carries most of the errors. The analytical phase, where we focus so much on, is only 7 to 13%. And then post-analytical, 19 to 47%. Analytical, we have so many indicators for them. You have EQA, you have IQC, you know, you are doing PPMs. But what about the pre-analytical, where most of the challenges are? So we need to focus on those in our root cause. So then, of course, common causes of errors, we know the individual responsibility and clear. So people don't know what they are supposed to do. You don't have written procedures, or written procedures, you have them, but they are not being followed, or you've not done any training. Yeah? There are transcription errors. You don't have any process or system in place to check for transcription errors. You don't store your kits properly. You are not doing EQC, EQN and QC, and then maybe equipments are not properly maintained. All those are the common areas that, and basically this would be in the analytical, but also if you look at the individual, some of these would also apply in the pre-analytical phase. So for you to manage an occurrence, you want to take corrective action, like I said. You learn from the event, avoid it occurring again. Then, and you have to address the event and its consequences. But remember, I also said you need to take preventive action. You see the potential event and then plan to avoid it. An example of preventive action would be, you know, the PPMs we do on equipment. We do PPM before they break. So that is a preventive action. But are we doing any other in all the other phases of testing in the lab? So there are many tools that are used in root cause analysis. We have the brainstorming, we have the Pareto chart, fishbone diagrams, scatter diagrams, we have flow charts, we have run chart, histograms, control the LJ charts, tree diagrams, and of course, even doing experiments. So here I would want to share something we did. It's not very clear, but it is a flow chart. One of our improvement projects. I don't know if there is somebody who needs to mute. A lot of background noise. Sorry for that. So I was saying this is an example of a flow chart we came up with when we were trying to improve our processes in the lab. And what you can see maybe is going through each and every step of the whole process. You break down each of them. And from each, then you say how much time is taking, what are the challenges. Then, of course, you come up with ideas. And what you see, the ones that are colored purple, are the actions that we needed to take to improve the whole process. Yeah, from the time the client walks in to the time we issue results. So you do a flow chart of all the processes, and then you identify the bottlenecks and where you can be able to take corrective action. And that is just an example of one of the root cause methodologies we used. Of course, you know, when you are looking at root cause, you have to look at the 5 M's and E, and that is the material, the manpower, the machinery, the method, the measurement, and of course, the environment. One of the other key tool of use of root cause would be brainstorming. So you need to decide whether you will brainstorm, whether you use a structured or the unstructured brainstorming. But the most ideal would be the structured, where everybody in the group gives ideas. Because there are a few people who will always talk, those who talk fast, or those who talk more, the idea would always carry the day. But if you use structured, then everybody participates in root cause analysis. So, of course, there is a bit also of asking why 5 times. So that is also another method that is widely used. And then you ask why until you are able to get to to the answer. So, of course, an illustration here is ask why 5 times. So the question here is, where do bears live? So you say they live in the forest. Why do they live in the forest? That is where their food is. So why is the why is the food in the forest? That is why that's where their food is, and then why? So that is where their food lives. So you answer all the whys until you get to the final answer. So an example here is event turnaround time for a test was too long. Why was the turnaround time too long? So the first why is that the control were expired and testing had to be delayed. So the second why is, why were there no non-expired controls? The order didn't get shipped in time. Then number 3, why didn't get shipped in time? The order wasn't placed on time. And then number 4, why was the order placed on time? The person who normally does the ordering was out sick, and there was no one designated as backup. So you can see how this ends up being an issue, probably that goes even outside the lab, because then who orders? The ordering probably is done by procurement or stores. So basically, this is just an example, but then you can use any of those other methods that are listed there to do root cause analysis. So that I come to the end of my presentation, and it's one of my favorite slides, and a quote that you go over, go around, go up or go through, but you should never give up in life. So thank you very much. Back to you, coordinator, Mr. Kamau Gatweshi.
Very much appreciated, Mr. Francis Ndungu. That was quite insightful. I want to say thank you very much for the support, to even volunteer your expertise and knowledge to walk us through this particular session. So I want to open it up for questions, just in case anyone with a question. Please, you can use the chat box or unmute. Question, please use the chat box or unmute. Yes, members, if you have a question, unmute and ask.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Since there are no questions, mine would just be to appreciate Mr. Ndungu for such an insightful engagement and such a very important training in such a time like this, when most of our labs are undergoing accreditation. We need more and more of these, because these are things we are facing on a day-to-day life as we practice profession. Also to the labs which have not maybe started the process of accreditation, these trainings and these CMEs are very important to them. I hope we could get a way whereby we could bring them on board, as many as we can, of this noble profession. So thank you so much, the convener, Mr. Kamau, and thank you so much to our presenter, Mr. Ndungu. That was
Thank you very much. That is our senior, Mr. Davis Mwangi from Nyeri County and Referral Hospital. Again, I will pause. Gloria, would you like to ask a question?
Hello, Mr. Kamau, I see Dr. Kennedy Muna hands is up.
Hello and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, so thank you for sharing that insightful session, Francis, and the convener, Mr. Kamoga Tweji. I'm happy to see that issue on data is of importance that we need to embrace and not lose it. And for information, Francis was my student, I think so, sometimes back. When was it? Way back, eh?
Yes, Dr. 2010, 2011, yes, Dr.
Yes, and I'm happy the way you're progressing. So much you've said about data, and something maybe which might also be of importance is on how to manage this particular data, because we are the richest sections in the hospital in terms of data generation, the use of LMS, and this can also be an area of research where we can generate, or we can come up with data centers in such a case that if you need the data from a particular region, particular section, we can actually do a whole research. Anyway, that was just my input, and I'm happy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daktari. Indeed, we have it's a mind goal we have in the lab. We have so much data, like you've said. A lot of research is driven by what comes out of the lab. Actually, all the research is driven by data that comes out of lab. And even using our own routine, the routine work we do, we can still come up. There are so many things that we can be able to do to even do research and even, of course, come up with ways of dealing with challenges that we face and even sharing with others. Yes. So thank you so much, Daktari, indeed, for that, for your comments.
Thank you, Dr. Muna. Thank you for your support and regularly commentating. We would like to invite Madam Rachel, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ndungu, for that insightful presentation. And actually, I was listening very keenly while you were talking about data, and I found that you talked about data so passionately. But my question was, data informs and decision making and the change of practice. Maybe if you could have given us an example of when data has given you change of practice or change of what you have been using, the methodology. So because of that data, the other thing that I had you say about data, actually, it can also be used to increase finance in the laboratory, depending on how you will present it. So I would have wished to hear maybe one way how the data in the laboratory where you're working has changed the methodology or has informed how the thing will be done differently. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So indeed, I would say maybe we use data to the extent of we do so much, and so much has been of our decision has been informed by data. Simple examples I gave: determining the number of staff to come into work, and even at what point, which timings to have more staff on duty. That has been informed by the data we generate from our queue management system. Because you have to match when you are very busy, that is when you have more staff. So even determining, how to do a rota and everything, we based it on data. Okay, I said about our turnaround time. That data we get out of the system, out of our lab information system, has helped us drive change and even change habits. Like I said, everybody becomes responsible when you start monitoring and you are able to show performance for each and every staff member. Things like critical value reporting, EQA performance, IQC performance, because these are things you are monitoring on a continuous basis. And also you are demonstrating, and visually people are able to see how you are progressing, and even at an individual level, how you are doing. And this has largely helped change even habits and how people look at things. In terms of using data to determine in terms of finance and costing, indeed, method, for example, even determining what method you need to use in the lab, or even which equipment to use, we use data. Number one would be, like where we've just recently used data is in terms of reagent usage. For example, on one platform, you realize that this platform is an equipment, chemistry equipment. It goes down more frequently. It goes down more frequently. It uses less. Out of, if say a test kit is given as doing 400 tests, you realize it is only able to give you at the end of the day 300 tests, while the other equipment will consume all the 400 tests. These are two different plans. So what do you go for? You look at the prices and you decide 80% of our work we'll do on this analyzer because it is able to, we are able to save cost. Most of the time it is up, so we are not, we'll be able to, of course, increase our revenue. So that is something that we do, and we have tools that are able to help us with that. Then even in terms of even informing the clinicians on, even the ordering patterns and all that, we again generate the data and then determine, then advise them on this is what you need to be doing. For example, if maybe even in our outreach centers, we do tests there, but then we look at how many tests are being requested in those outreach. For example, say a test like magnesium, would you have it out there? How many magnesiums are requested in a month, or if in a month? Do you need to have it there really, or you can centralize that test? So and how do you look at that? You look at the data, you look at how many have been requested before, and then you decide, no, we need to centralize this test. So many areas where we've actually used data to change, to make decisions and actually change things. So thank you, Rachel. I think I see Dorcas' hand is up.
At this point, Mr. Francis will not be able to take any other questions. We've overshoot the time. We're going to use the platform for another session immediately after this. It's supposed to start at 3. So we'll thank each and every one of us for joining. And thank you more sincerely for taking time out to share with us. So members, if you have any topical area you'd want us to discuss, or you feel you are well endowed and would wish to share with the rest of us, we are more than glad. You can text me, email me, gatweshi@gmail, my second name @gmail.com, and we'll be able to run it. And next week we'll be discussing genomics. So you go review, revise, think about genomics, and let's see how it goes next week. So from my desk, I'll say thank you and request that we shut down ahead of the second session. Thank you.
Thank you, Gatweshi.